Like if he wanted to, the person that owns the platform could turn it off tomorrow. And where would all that history go, right? Black Twitter would just be this thing that we tell as another oral tradition, which is so bizarre, right? So when I say who is it for? It's for our generation, but for generations that aren't born yet.
Hi everyone, I'm Makeda Ramsey from Pop Culture Planet. I'm so excited to speak with you all today. How's it going?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, so let's get started right into the questions. My first question is, when this docuseries was announced, there were a lot of comments from people asking, who's the audience, right? Like, who is this for? So who do you think the intended audience is?
I mean, I think the audience is lots of people, right? Obviously, it's a love letter to the culture. I mean, that's who it's for, right? But I think, more so, I think what's interesting is we live in a time right now where books are being banned. We live in a time where history is being rewritten. And this was sort of said in the doc, like if he wanted to, the person that owns the platform could turn it off tomorrow. And where would all that history go, right? Black Twitter would just be this thing that we tell as another oral tradition, which is so bizarre, right? So when I say who is it for? It's for our generation, but for generations that aren't born yet, right? Because again, so much of our culture gets changed all the time, and the fact that the people who lived it can document it, that's who it's for, right? So it's for today, and it's really for tomorrow as well.
Where do you think Black Twitter stands today, and do you think X has destroyed it?
I mean, yeah. No, I don't think X has destroyed it. I think X is, I don't know what Elon's doing, but, a lot of the data shows that there has been an exodus of users from the platform, but it has been less detrimental to Black users. Black users are still on there doing what they do. But I also think that's just part of how we've always adapted from things that have been taken from us, right? It's like this platform was not meant for us in the first place. So whether the owner's Jack Dorsey, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's somebody who comes after us, we're still going to be here doing our thing because that's just what we do, and it's going to be ours no matter what.
Yeah, and I think that you still see the community existing today, and we're still finding each other. That's what it's about. It's about us always being able to find each other when we need each other, and that is still happening, and we're still getting these jokes off.
Next question is, Black Twitter has a lot of sub-communities. Which ones are you subscribed to?
This is good. Awards show Twitter, NBA Twitter. I lurk on relationship Twitter just to read the bad takes, see what people are complaining about. Yeah, I'm all over I'm lurking everywhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely NBA. I'm definitely just things that feel super comedic. Black Twitter. I've also gotten into the gender wars Twitter, which I find in terms of I because I'm older, I always go, what are these young kids talking about? And then I go, I'm gonna leave. How is Black people gonna populate the planet? Everybody's so skeptical of each other, but but in the gender war stuff, there is so much comedy. There's so much comedy. But yeah, that's some of the ones I definitely lurk on gender wars Twitter.
Yeah, and the Hoteps pop in there.
Hoteps always popping in.
I love the comedy, but I feel like I nerd out, and I always end up with the Black academic feed, and I'm like, all right, let's just get in there with the, we had some amazing professors in this too, the folks that I've been following for a long time. So yeah, I get in there.
How do you think you've contributed to Black Twitter?
Oh, that's a good one. Just by being there and showing up, right? So I joined in 2009, and this was the height of the recession, the Obama years. I was just coming out of college, and it was just a space me and my friends were gathering. So it's been really, I feel really fortunate to have been a part of history in that way, and then now to turn it back on itself and say, hey guys, look what we made, look at the brilliance and the genius that we created. I think feels really special to me.
Yeah, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. I agree with Jason. I think existing, obviously, there and contributing in any sort of way, whether that's just a simple thing, a part of a conversation, I feel like I've seen it more from as a filmmaker, I would think oh man, I've thought if I could have talked to Spike Lee personally on a platform when I was 16 years old, how amazing would that have been? What could I have learned from this, or just followed his stream of consciousness and thought about it as he's making stuff. And so I often find that as I've posted stuff about when we were making Insecure this, or when I was working on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, this is how we were making this, I find that has done so many kind of really cool things for people to engage me on hey, can I, and not so much can you hook me up, but just when you were thinking this, what were you thinking, right? And I've got to like respond to that. And so when I've seen that, and then I've been places where people come up to me and go, oh, you responded to me on Twitter about this, or you responded to me about that. That makes me feel really nice and good to know, like, oh, I'm helping, because again, like I'm not gonna run across a ton of people in my daily life unless they're helping me pick up kids from school and do all the other things. So that is a way where I feel like, oh, even if I can't see you, I can touch you. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's really, especially for us in our community, when there's not a ton of us, that you could be like, oh, they do this at this high level. So for me, that's been, I think, one of the most impactful ways, that at least it certainly has impacted me.
I don't know how I've impacted it, but I feel like it's impacted me, and that it's, we'll see.
You do great work.
Thank you so much. But I feel like what it is for me is, it's been a lifeline when I've needed it. It's been the place where I can go and get the information that I need when I need it. During the pandemic, it was like essential. Ferguson was a huge moment where it was the only place where I could get the news and the information that I needed. So I've been in so many different times in my life over the last, however many years it's been around. I've been so grateful that it exists, to just give me what I needed and connect me to my people.
Okay, my next question is, as a Black person myself, we create community like everywhere we go. So do you think Black Twitter was inevitable? Do you think, it wouldn't have happened without something? Or do you feel like no matter what, it would have happened?
I mean, we always find each other, right? I think in the very early days, the golden days, as I like to think of them, these were just college students looking for a place to connect. We didn't have jobs, but we had Wi-Fi, right? And so, like, let's go online. Let's talk about our days. It just felt like college again at a time that felt very unstable and uncertain, and we didn't know what was coming tomorrow. Despite us having now a Black president, despite, all these things that should have been very good things, but reality didn't necessarily reflect that. So I think Twitter felt like, in some ways, a safe space for us to just get our thoughts off, get our opinions off. And you're doing this thing naturally every day, and then it turns into this thing, and some people are able to make a career out of it, but it's like you're not going to the platform for that necessarily in the beginning. So I think for me that was really, really important.
I'm curious, like, we've talked in the doc, and I think the one thing that's interesting about Twitter that I think was different than, at that time than where Facebook was sort of the main one that was there was, Facebook was a lot of like, find your friends, right? Like, here's your cousin, here's your friend from high school or whatever, where Twitter was like, who are all these strangers, right? Which is, essentially how you build like new community, right? And I think that's when you were having people do these sort of tweet ups and all these sort of like meeting up to, I met you on here, like things that just wasn't happening on Facebook in the same way. And I think there was something unique to the platform of you could organically meet strangers, right? Without this sort of like guardrail of, I don't know this person. It was like the person was just sort of, in the way Black people do, just hop in your business, right? And so I think that level of how we engage on the platform, I think coupled with what was happening in the Obama era of Black people feeling empowered to speak up and say things that they probably wouldn't have said even 8 years ago, a different president in the office, right? It's like, oh, here's, again, Kanye said the famous thing, right? George Bush don't care about Black people, right? But here was a time we have a president now that is speaking to that. So I just think the energy around us was different, to want to speak up, to find community, to be unapologetic about that. And I think Twitter was the place where, oh, another stranger thinks like me. Oh, okay, another person who isn't me thinks like me. And I think that kind of all kind of coalesced in kind of the perfect storm. So when people go like, what's the next one? I go, I don't know. Can you create that perfect storm? Can you kind of create this like first Black president energy again? Can you kind of create this energy again? So it's like trying to just, again, fake viral that moment is almost impossible.
It's like lightning in a bottle. Like you can't really capture it twice. It was just, everything was so organic and so like, I don't know.
I don't know if it would have happened without Obama in the presidency. I really don't. I do feel like it was a very specific time in history to make all of these things possible.
That was my last question. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were great.
Thanks for having us.